Milestone race swaps Edwin Alva. Sad. Just sad.
Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue.
When I first heard that the Milestone characters were returning a couple of years ago, I got really excited because Milestone was the first black-owned comic book company to basically have its own separate universe, and that separate universe of characters got major exposure due to the support of DC Comics giving it distribution. And the Milestone comics were absolutely fantastic back in 1993, and I was blessed to be able to pick up many of those comics as I was going to college in the Bronx. And back then, I was really excited every week when books like Hardware, The Blood Syndicate, Icon, and Static would hit the comic book shelves at the local stores that were on Fordham Road, and I look forward to picking up those books either from one of those stores or a vendor outside on Fordham Road. Now, over the years, sadly, what happened with Milestone is that the company sadly went under in 1997, and the last event for the company was the Long Hot Summer, which basically signified the end of Milestone Comics as a publisher. And as time went on, the Milestone, after it went out of print, we got to see the hit series Static Shock, which was basically exciting, and people had been anticipating a return of the Milestone characters to comic books, and sadly it didn't happen because sadly Dwayne McDuffie wound up passing away a few years later. And after Dwayne McDuffie passed away, what happened was is that his estate of his wife had a dispute with the other Milestone creators as related to the rights. And as those creators had that dispute with Dwayne McDuffie's wife as related to his estate, the Milestone characters basically wound up in limbo for, I believe, about 15 to 16 or even 20 years. And as these characters wound up in limbo, many comic fans like myself who are black were anticipating a return of these characters to the pages of comics. And finally, the estate of Dwayne McDuffie were able to settle their issues with the other Milestone creators, and we were starting to get a return of Milestone characters around, I believe, 2021 or so. And with the return of Milestone, a lot of black comic fans like myself were getting really excited. Unfortunately, the entire Milestone 2.0 launch is more like Windows ME because Reginald Hudlin basically has made a Milestone universe not rooted in the source material, but rooted in identity politics and his own far left agenda. And sadly, this is where Reginald Hudlin basically has screwed up the entire Milestone universe, screwed it up from its complete inception of his new Earth M, and his new Earth M, like Windows ME, the operating system that was the home edition for Windows, for the Windows 2000 operating system, is full of bugs, and these bugs basically are all due to Reginald Hudlin's huge ego and his lack of understanding of the publishing business. Now, like Dan Didio before him, who worked at DC Comics, the big problem with Reginald Hudlin is that he comes from Hollywood, and as he comes from Hollywood, he not only is coming there with a lack of publishing experience, but he also comes with a huge ego and no real understanding of the publishing business. And with that, and that lack of publishing experience in the publishing business led him to go out here and launch this Milestone 2.0, not understanding the entire dynamics of storytelling as related to comics, but coming in and looking to go out here and put his own approaches and own ideas on these characters. And that basically led to this whole universe crashing and burning because he didn't understand the mechanics and foundations of these characters or their missions. Now, the most egregious thing up to this point that Reginald Hudlin had done was with the complete rewriting of the origin of the Milestone characters. Now, in the original origin of the Milestone characters, it happened at a Big Bang, and this Big Bang was a gang banging incident where a group of gangs were going to have a rumble on Paris Island. And as they had this rumble on Paris Island, the police in the city of Dakota went out here and used some gas on them, but this gas had quantum juice in it, and the quantum juice gas is the reason why many of the characters, including Static, got all of their powers. Unfortunately, what happened with the Milestone universe under the direction of Reginald Hudlin, he decided, because he wanted to go out here and try to merchandise and adapt it for television, what he did was change the Big Bang to reflect modern times by making it connected to the Black Lives Matter organization as related to the George Floyd riots in 2020. And that basically wound up destroying the entire foundation of the Milestone universe because, one, he basically went out here and tied it to then current events, which basically dated everything, and two, the entire organization of Black Lives Matter was proven to be a complete fraud about 2 years later, and that basically destroyed the entire foundation of the entire Milestone universe and basically made it where the entire foundation for everything that took place as related to the Milestone universe was basically invalidated as an entire event. This whole lack of understanding of how to publish a comic or tell a story in comics basically destroyed the Milestone universe from minute one, and things got progressively worse with each Milestone comic that was published under Reginald Hudlin's leadership. And sadly, as the time went on with the Milestone 2.0 universe, it's gotten progressively worse with each issue, and publications basically stopped at a point. We had the Static Season 1, we had Icon and Rocket Season 1, then we had the Blood Syndicate and Hardware, and all of those books were absolutely awful. Then came the Hardware versus Icon series, which basically showed me that there was really serious problems with editorial as related to the overall direction of the books, because the Hardware versus Icon miniseries basically it showed how the entire structure of the Milestone universe was falling completely apart. And as this Hardware versus Icon series basically wound up ending about a year and a half ago, we didn't see any Milestone publications for an entire year. And that really looks odd for a comic publisher to have books not come out for an entire year. I mean, we had Static Season 1, Icon and Rocket Season 1, Blood Syndicate Season 1, which came later, Hardware Season 1, Duo, and again, none of these books basically had any follow-up. And that's the kiss of death in the business of publishing. You don't want to have too much time going on between books when you're having monthly floppies coming out, because people will absolutely forget you. And people basically started to forget about Milestone after Icon versus Hardware came out and basically came and went as this miniseries, which basically had Curtis Metcalf as Hardware traveling through time and changing history, and eventually this led to Brainiac coming into the Milestone universe and a whole lot of things related to Brainiac. Then all of a sudden, as related to the result of things, they managed to reset time, but then Icon and Rocket wind up breaking up, and this is where the entire Milestone universe, which was already on a rickety structure, starts to completely fall apart, because one of the core tenets of the Milestone universe was Rocket and Icon's relationship, because they were both learning from each other. Rocket was the teenage girl learning about Black history from the past from Icon, who was an alien who was a former slave who knew about Black history, and he was learning about modern times. And that whole story was basically derailed because Reginald Hudlin basically wanted to tell his CW version of Icon, which was nothing like the source material. And this basically was, again, another damaging moment to the entire Milestone universe. It was another entire damaging moment to the Milestone universe as related to things I mean, the Hardware versus Icon series did more damage to the overall structure of the Milestone universe, and I thought things couldn't get any worse until I read this third issue of Shadow Cabinet. Now, this third issue of Shadow Cabinet basically is the complete end of the Milestone universe as I see it, as related to destroying the entire structure of the Milestone universe, because along with the Big Bang being connected to Black Lives Matter, which just destroys the entire foundation of the universe, we've got, and the other thing with Rocket and Icon breaking up, we now have a major revelation in this third issue of Shadow Cabinet, which further destroys the Milestone universe. Now, in this third issue of Shadow Cabinet, we have this revelation that is made that basically race swaps the character of Edwin Alva, and this race swapping of Edwin Alva, which is quite disturbing. This race swapping is just the jump the shark moment, as I see it, for the Milestone universe. Now, according to this woman, Angela Alva, she's saying that the whole bloodline of Edwin Alva is connected to a black man named Maynard Chamberlain, who was black and passing as white, and that the first hero in Milestone was basically sponsored by this black man who was passing as white. Now, what they're trying to do here is trying to make it like it was the person Walter White, who's supposed to be the founder of the NAACP. But basically what they're doing here with Edwin Alva is they're trying to create a bloodline, saying that his bloodline was basically black, and as his bloodline went on, what happened was Angela Alva, who was the second child of the Alva family, basically was one of these biracial black women. And this biracial black woman, basically, because she's the sister of Edwin Alva, is supposed to be a black woman, and that basically makes Edwin Alva a black man. And I have to call bullshit on that, because the whole core for the story of Hardware is connected to Edwin Alva, and Edwin Alva being one of the big villains in Milestone, he's supposed to be a white guy, and he's a white guy because it fits the core mission of Hardware. I mean, it fits the core mission of Hardware for Edwin Alva to be a black man. And basically, not black man, but a white man. Edwin Alva has to be a white man, because if Edwin Alva is not a white man, then Curtis Metcalf does not have a motivation to go out here and be Hardware. Because the core reason for Curtis Metcalf to become Hardware is basically rooted in the story of a black man not getting his due in white supremacist corporate America. And the whole story of Curtis Metcalf is all about him not being able to get fair compensation and fair acknowledgement. And this is a story that relates to many brothers out here. Many brothers out here, we go on these corporate jobs. We go out here and bring our best ideas to these corporate jobs in a covert contract to get white acceptance, which is what Curtis Metcalf did. And that story in and of itself is the main reason why most people went out here and bought Hardware. But sadly, Reginald Hudlin and his new writer basically go out here and look to rewrite the story of Hardware. And as they look to rewrite the story of Hardware with this whole race swapping of Edwin Alva, they basically finish destroying the entire foundations of the Milestone universe, finish destroying the entire foundations of the Milestone universe with this book. Now, this book basically is the absolute end of the Milestone universe as it is. I mean, the damage was already done with the connection to Black Lives Matter, which destroys the entire Big Bang as related to many of the heroes like the Blood Syndicate and Static. But this book further does more damage than anything, because here you have one of the big villains in the Milestone universe, and one of the things that made him popular was that the black heroes were taking on this white man, and now you want to say that he's not white, and that's just the absolute end. Reginald Hudlin went out here and race swapped Edwin Alva in an effort to try to shock readers, and this effort to shock readers basically is going to alienate most people as related to the few people who do read Milestone 2.0, which I'm going to go on record as calling it the Windows ME of comics. I mean, Shadow Cabinet number 3 basically is performing an illegal operation and has wound up shutting down the entire Milestone 2.0 universe, a universe made on bad code written by Reginald Hudlin, who says that he's a comic fan, but no comic fan would allow plot twists like this to basically destroy the source material. No competent editor-in-chief would go out here and make these type of changes to the continuity of your new universe and finish alienating the few remaining customers that you have buying these books. No smart editor-in-chief would do this, but Reginald Hudlin went out here and pulled a Didio in an effort to shock all the readers out here as related to Milestone 2.0. And as he looked to go out here and shock readers with Milestone 2.0, basically he's showing me that 2.0 is just like Windows ME, one of the worst operating systems, and I dare to even go further and say it's like Windows Vista. I mean, it's more like Windows Vista because Windows Vista was so bad, people basically wanted to downgrade to XP, and they downgraded to Windows XP because it was a more stable operating system and built on better code. And when it comes to Milestone 2.0, it basically, again, is one of the worst things to ever come out in comics publishing. An absolute, again, utter failure all around. And I don't know what's worse, the just horrible structure of the foundation of this new Milestone universe, or the fact that we don't get books that come out for a year and a half, and the book that comes out as related to this year and a half is filled with a lot of plot twists and revelations that take characters out of character, because in the second issue, we've got Static saying that he doesn't want to be a hero, and he, as related to, again, going and supporting the whole situation with the Shadow Cabinet, which runs counter to the original Shadow War, which shows me that Reginald Hudlin did not read any of these books and wanted to go out here and look to make his own new improved approach, but his new improved approach has basically made for a book that's just a universe that's just basically a hot mess and a crap show of a universe. And this third issue, with its race swapping of Edwin Alva, is the just absolute end of this universe. And at this point, I would say you just need to be basically done at this point. And when I look at this whole situation with Shadow Cabinet number 3 and this revelation and the other plot twist in the story where we've got Alva basically turning into a Dr. Manhattan type being, I mean, this book just shows me that you have to be very careful about the person who you make to be the steward of your lore. You have to be very careful about who you make to be the steward of your lore, because the wrong person can basically just ruin your characters and ruin the story and keep them from being passed on to the next generation. Now, as a publisher of my own universe of black characters, it deeply saddens me to see what the Milestone characters have become, because I wish I could have gotten my hands on these characters. I wish I had the money to be able to get the rights to these characters, because I would treat them with the same care that I treat my own SJS Direct Universe characters with, and I would treat them with the same care and try to make sure that the books basically were staying true to the original stories that the late, great Dwayne McDuffie established. I would want to go out here and make sure that those characters stay true to their lore, and stay true to their original missions. That means you would have gotten a wisecracking, fun Static, who basically was a kid in high school and would have been something like a manga or a Static Shock season 5. You would have gotten an Icon and Rocket that would have gone in depth into black history and basically built up a rogues gallery. And you would have gotten a Hardware, who was a black man looking to try to get his fair due from the system as related to what the tangibles he did not receive from his employer. and you would have gotten a blood syndicate that would have been an actual gang, and basically, again, you would have gotten stuff true to the source material. That's what you would have gotten under Sean James had he been allowed to be a part of comics. But sadly, I tried to be a part of this business, but this business doesn't want guys like me to be in the business. No, they would rather go out here and get the black Dan Didio in Reginald Hudlin, who basically, as I see it at this point, has screwed up the Milestone universe and sadly kept an entire generation from seeing how great these characters are, because he doesn't know how to go out here and develop bad guys and develop relationships between the hero and the bad guy, as I've seen with many of his books that just basically have it gone off on tangents, doesn't know how to build a world as related to fantasy, and shows me one of the reasons why you can't really have a fan going out here and working on characters if they don't understand the foundations of the publishing business, don't understand the foundations of story. If you go out here and get the wrong person to go out here and be the steward of your lore is going to be lost to history. And sadly, what's going to happen with Milestone is after the Shadow Cabinet number 3 comes out, it's basically going to fade into obscurity. It's going to fade into obscurity and basically be forgotten, all because what the Milestone people basically chose the wrong steward for their lore. And as they chose this incompetent person, they basically turned Milestone into a something that will be completely forgotten, and be completely forgotten as related to comics. And it's really sad, because Milestone basically was something that I was proud to see, a rich, diverse world of black heroes, again, done in by a guy who focused more on identity politics and social justice, and basically tanked one of the great products as related to black comics. I mean, it's sad because this Milestone Shadow Cabinet number 3, again, is a complete disaster, a disaster all around as related to this world of black characters, which could have been, again, done far better by a more competent publisher. And if these characters had been in better hands, the entire Milestone universe would possibly be selling out at stores everywhere. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available in paperback on Lulu.com, and you can get your copy of John Haynes at Death's Door to see how I would write comics and see how I put comics together when I was out here doing comics. And I have a digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, which is also available on Kindle for 99 cents, and you can get that book in another Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past, and you can get that on paperback on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also pick up other SJS Direct Universe books and see how a universe is structured properly. You can find the books of the SJS Direct Universe, such as those in the ISIS series, those in the Esteem series, those in the John Haynes series, those in the Black Goth Spinsterella trilogy, and my sorority novel, The Thetas, and my vampire novel, Eternal Night. And you can pick up all these books and see how an entire world of black characters is structured and done, and can flow easily from one book to the other. And you can find all those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos taking comics to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.